Most of us assume price reflects utility, but at the absolute extremes of the economy, standard market logic ceases to function. At the zenith of the pricing spectrum, a single gram of antimatter carries an estimated valuation approaching $5.8 quadrillion. That price tag is dictated entirely by the laws of physics and mass energy equivalence. Creating subatomic particles is exceptionally inefficient. Accelerators require massive grid power for microscopic yields. Synthesizing a single gram would take roughly 600 million years. At the top of the economy, a price tag represents the physical energy required to force matter into existence. Moving down the spectrum to physical matter, we find a different barrier: logistical friction. In September 2023, NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission returned from the asteroid Bennu. The capsule delivered 121 grams of extraterrestrial regolith. The mission costs placed the unit price of this dust at $9.54 million per gram. This valuation covers a $1 billion capital outlay for spacecraft development, launch vehicles, and the complex orbital mechanics required for a deep space return. The asteroid dust represents a proxy for high-risk logistical bottlenecks and the baseline cost of space access. At the near-zero baseline of the economy, bulk resources like construction sand and municipal water trade for small fractions of a cent per ton. At this scale, the material has almost no intrinsic value. Buyers are paying for the kinetic energy required to transport the bulk from a quarry to a construction site. But value inverts when the physical transport and storage system overflows. On April 20th, WTI crude oil dropped off the cliff, crossing into negative territory at minus $37.63 per barrel. This crash was driven by paper futures contracts. Speculators faced a legal obligation to take physical delivery of thousands of barrels. The physical delivery hub in Cushing, Oklahoma, reached its operational limit. Traders without pipeline access or storage permits had no space to store the oil. When physical storage fills up, the liability of holding a commodity exceeds its utility. To avoid severe legal penalties, producers pay consumers to take the supply off their hands. Negative wholesale electricity prices are now a frequent occurrence in the European energy sector. This is a structural mismatch. Renewable energy sources like solar and wind generate massive surges of power during favorable weather, flooding the grid with unneeded supply. Simultaneously, traditional thermal power plants face such high mechanical restart costs that operators choose to run at a loss rather than shut down their turbines. Negative pricing becomes a mathematical certainty when rigid infrastructure collides with an oversupplied system. Below negative commodities sits the baseline where money itself dissolves. Under extreme sovereign distress, the physical substrate of a currency outlives its financial meaning. Following World War II, Hungary experienced the most severe hyperinflationary episode ever recorded. As the state printed money to fund rebuilding and reparations, the Hungarian pengo devalued exponentially. Prices doubled every 15 hours, forcing the government to print a 100 million billion pengo note. Its purchasing power fell so rapidly that the currency became worthless. These stacks of legal tender were used as household kindling and toys rather than for trade. Hyperinflation reveals that fiat value relies on a collective agreement, one that dissolves under the weight of sovereign debt. This leads to a final pricing illusion: massive legacy institutions and historical properties that are transferred for a single dollar or euro. Italy's €1 houses are a prime example. The symbolic price tag covers a ruinous property in a depopulated municipality. The same dynamic applies to finance. In 1995, Barings Bank was acquired by ING for a symbolic £1. These are exercises in structural arbitrage. The $1 price is an entry fee to assume millions in operational liabilities, historical preservation mandates, and outstanding debt. Equity value remains subordinate to debt. A free asset can represent a massive financial commitment. Value is never intrinsic. From quadrillion-dollar isotopes to $1 megacorporations, a price tag is a localized equation of thermodynamic limits, physical bottlenecks, and systemic leverage.